Go deep into the minds of real estate professionals. Here are your hosts, Paul and Sal.
Deep into the minds of real estate professionals. Today we have the infamous Alan J. Alan J., how are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
Very
How are
good.
you, Paul?
Very good. And you are infamous, by the way.
I am very infamous.
The Red Realtor.
Yeah,
Yes.
the Red Realtor. We've got Salvatore Kuzmano. We've got Brad Wiesgerber.
That's not how you say my name.
Yeah, it is.
You know that.
That's how I say it. Today we're going to talk a little bit about, rates, Fed. We're going to talk about unemployment or employment reports. Really exciting stuff. We'll try to breeze through that, people, but I think it's important to touch on. Maybe talk a little bit about Iran. I don't know how that's going to go.
Man.
Alan J., why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, your past, why you do what you do? Are you any good?
Those are a lot of questions all at one time.
Just go at them, man. Go at 'em.
Oh.
You brought Timbits this morning. Thank you
I
very much
did.
for that.
You're welcome. I
First
know.
person to bring us gifts
Yeah.
ever in the history of the show.
Haven't sent.
Okay. Well, I've been in the business 5 beautiful years.
It's a long time.
Yeah. For my age, it is. Yes, it
Yeah.
is. It's 5 years. Started at Century 21 Town and Country in Northville, Michigan. Now I'm up here in Royal Oak.
Nice. It's where to be.
Yep. When I first got my license, I didn't do much with it. Then I did a couple other things in life. Lived in New York City, went to school, had a relationship that crashed and burned, but I learned from it.
Good.
I think that's important to learn from all those relationships.
Yeah.
And then here I am, back in the business, going strong, very happy,
Yeah.
based out of Royal Oak.
You enjoying it?
I love it.
You do.
Yeah, surprisingly. You
It's
never,
good.
you never
don't-
know.
You don't seem like you like people.
Man.
I'm totally kidding. I'm telling you, he's one of the nicest dudes in the world. So obviously, I mean, you've been in it for 5 years. Let me ask you this: like the market today, and where it's going, and where it's been. What do you see has changed over the last 3 years? I would say, because I mean, there has been a shift in our local market and really nationally as to buyers, sellers market. Like, what do you see that has changed through your career?
Well, to sum it up in something short, I was having a discussion with a realtor the other day in my office, and she used the phrase that our market currently right now, compared to the last few years, is constipated. And I really
That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
That's not a
Word.
bad way to put it.
I thought that was a very
There's a lot in there, just can't get it out.
good, yes, it's a
Man.
very good word to use. Yes.
All right.
I think that is probably the best analogy I've
That's
heard
a
about
really
it,
good
you know?
analogy, man.
Yeah. What's going to be the laxative? Yeah. What a great question.
That
Coffee.
should be the title of this. Do you guys do titles for podcasts?
Sure, yeah, we'll call
Okay.
it the real estate laxative. I'm thinking coffee and cigarettes.
Yeah.
That usually works for
And
me.
a shot of vodka.
Yeah.
No.
So so it's constipated. I mean, obviously, I think the biggest story we talk about it at nauseum, but it's the reality is that the lack of inventory. Buyers are having a hard time finding houses. Not a lot of people selling. What do you think is going? Do you think? I guess my question is, how do we create more inventory in a situation where people just don't know how to buy and sell, aren't selling? You know what? Like, what's going to change?
Educate people more.
What
On
is
what?
that going to do?
Well, if you educate people more, if you get the opportunities to have more listing appointments, to speak more to the public about the benefits of selling in today's market, maybe it will encourage people to sell.
Yeah.
So many people are uneducated about the market, how the market works, their current home value. I mean, I had some conversations the other day with some people, and they're like, yeah, my realtor said that, it's not the best time to sell right now. And I'm thinking,
Idiot.
what?
Idiot.
So it's actually scary that was even said by someone who calls themselves a professional in the industry.
Interesting.
So, but, yeah.
Well, it's a weird problem, right? Because you need people to sell to have that person who sold before to buy, right? I mean, it's like everyone needs something to buy as well, and I think that's probably in people's minds the biggest holdup, right? The news of rates going up hasn't really changed too much. The flow of inventory.
Let me ask you guys a question, because this is this just came to me. So if everybody decides to start selling, right, like selling their houses, that's going to create more inventory. But all those people that are selling, most of them are going to need another house, right?
So that really do anything.
So all, it's like absolute. It's a flat line. It's not going to like change much, right? You're going to just have more population.
And an
of people.
interesting conversation that I have with people too is, right now, what are current interest rates? Because I'm at a 3.875 on my 30-year mortgage. That's half the mortgage I'm about to take on, right? Because they bought their house for that much less. But they have $100,000 equity, and they put minimum down when they bought their original house.
Yeah,
But
but
that's really funny to me because it comes up a lot in mortgages. But think about it. How often do you buy a new car? Usually every 3 to 5 years. How often do you be like, I don't want to buy a new car because I don't know what the interest rates are doing on car loans right now. Nobody ever compares those. Like, I got a low rate on my car loan, but nobody ever says, I don't want to buy a new car.
Listen, if you were looking at a house,
it's kind of crazy.
If you were looking at a house, right, and there was a sheet in front of you that said, it was rates and payments, and I held my hand over the rates. Which payment do you want? This one, this one, this one, that one,
Pick
right?
the lowest one every time.
Well, people probably take the lowest one, and ultimately, maybe there's a term behind it too, right?
Right. How fast? You'll pay it
Okay,
off.
well, I can handle that. Then you pull that up, 4.875, and they're like, the world crashes down on their head.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, dude.
Well, you guys said before, several podcasts ago, that people are getting spoiled right now.
Totally spoiled,
with
yeah.
mortgage rates. Well, not right now, but a year ago and
several
more.
years.
They're just whiny little spoiled brats.
Well, that's what they're used to. What do you expect?
I get it, but get over it. Like, dude, it is still super cheap to buy a house. I mean, it's even if it was at 5%, dude, it's tax deductible, and you're really paying like 3.5%, right?
I mean, I work at a mortgage company. My rate's 5.5.
You had a bad loan officer, dude.
I almost said that, but-
Screwed.
But let's go back to my initial point. My point was, even if people start selling their houses, and we're thinking that's going to fix the inventory issue, we're still going to have those people that need to buy, and you're still going to have a big population of people that need to buy. I don't know personally what is going to fix the inventory problem, because the population of people that are going to want to buy homes is going to stay static, basically.
Well, you're using the word people and you're using the word all. So with more inventory, people selling their homes, that means there's going to be more inventory from the people selling their homes to choose from.
True,
okay, it's
true,
not
for
one
sure.
specific group of people that's only selling $200,000 houses. Okay, so across the board, if everybody decides to sell
That
from
makes
all
sense.
brackets,
Good point.
then people are encouraged because then they see, oh, well, there actually are houses that I want to buy that are for sale as well.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I can get lucky and this will be a smooth transition of selling and buying in the same time.
Well,
That's
I
true.
also have
That's a good point.
I think you have to think too, when people say there's no inventory, there's no houses. That's in desirable areas, right? I mean, if you
It's
go,
kind of going all over the place now,
yeah.
man.
yeah,
You
but
know, like
I would
like,
say
I'll give you Warren as an example. Like Warren was like not desirable. It's hard to find homes in Warren now.
But it is
I'm
now
happy
with
you
all the
said
people
that.
working
Well,
there,
it's
right?
huge.
And there's a lot of people doing flips there, things like that. I mean, it's still kind of in that realm of close to work, close to Sterling Heights, close to Oakland County. 696 is right there, right? But I believe that attraction to new areas, right, and an influx of flippers, builders, things like that into areas like Hazel Park, Detroit, the outskirts, that's probably going to be the next shift, because I think that the inventory problem is above and beyond like the economy. I think it's more of a population problem. There's just a lot more people that want to buy houses than people who are willing to sell.
Word.
if people want to take risks. So I will have buyers that will be like, yeah, I'll do Hazel Park or Detroit. But that's because they see that development can happen and they want to take a risk with having a large amount of appreciation happen.
Right.
Yeah, that can go backwards on you though, from experience.
Yeah, but not right now. I think it's a great
Man.
buy. I think people, dude, I'm having like,
Well, when the water supply is poisoned, I mean,
Yeah.
that's tough.
guys, come on. But like I'm seeing more and more investors, out-of-state investors, investing in Detroit and all these like to your point, and there's people flipping houses. So that's also now starting to go up, right? Like a $30,000 home is now $80,000.
Yeah, I've had investors out of New York, Singapore call me, and they were like, I want to buy all these houses in Detroit, and they were like 80 grand. I'm like, and this is when I first started doing this. I was like, okay. All the appraisals were coming in low. It was a nightmare, right? But all those houses are probably worth now $180,000.
Well, yeah, depending. Yeah, for sure.
No, they are. They're making bank on them.
Right.
And,
so, go ahead.
But it wasn't just her, right? It was like a group of a large group of people from all over the country, all over the world, actually, who are buying these homes and putting them to use, whether they're turning them to rentals, Airbnbs, which is kind of crazy. I see a lot of that in Detroit, flipping them. It's just a large influx of money into the next opportunity, right? It's almost like I think people see Detroit as almost the next Brooklyn.
Yeah, for sure. I've heard that multiple times, right? It's like it's trendy. It's on the come up. It's like very good. I like what's happening in Detroit. I like what's happening in our market. Look, it's a weird thing because we actually have it. We might be constipated, but we're healthy, right? We might be constipated, but it's like it could be the opposite.
Cheese, brother.
Sometimes I know it's either that or we have diarrhea, right? It's like which one do we want? Like I think we're not unhealthy. Pricing's going up. People are making money. There are deals happening. The biggest challenge today, hands down, is getting a buyer into a house.
I like the word challenge because some people are saying it's an issue, it's a problem. And in the grand spectrum of it all, this is a good challenge.
It's a good challenge
that we are having.
It's much better than having like a slew of foreclosures everywhere, right?
And people always find a place to live. It's not like, oh my God, I can't buy a house. Like I'll have nowhere to live.
No,
right?
people end up buying. Yeah.
I have something to say about that too with interest rates and people, oh, I don't want to purchase now because of the interest rates and things like that. And I always say to people,
shut up.
Well, it depends on the person.
I'm sorry.
You need a place to live. Unless you are living with your mother or you're bumming off your brother in his basement, you physically need...
Shout out to Paul.
Sorry if anyone's doing that.
Not
here.
him.
You need a place to live. So if you are renting, I always advise people, hey, take your annual cost for your rent. Okay, look at that. That's how much money you're throwing away. And now talk to a loan officer and see what your monthly payment's going to be. You'll see that it's less, if not the same as what you're paying for rent. And then now you'll be putting it towards your own equity and investment for yourself.
Well, not to mention, okay, let's say your payment's $1,500, and at the beginning only $300 of that's going to principal, right? It's still like putting $300 away in the bank, and that grows every single time you make a payment. Not to mention that all that interest is tax deductible, and it's still probably cheaper than what your rent payment would be.
Correct. I had a buyer come through an open house this past weekend. And he was like, I'm worried about the closing cost and how I'm just going to do it and I'm not going to get it back. I'm not going to get the closing costs back. And I'm like, well, when you sell your house, you have all the equity in the home in which you will get it back. Well, no, but not like the specific closing costs that I have to pay. I'm like, well, if in your mind you want to organize it that way, then that's a little unfortunate.
But when you go rent, you've got to put up 1 month's rent, security deposit. You might not get that back. I mean, and you're not getting any of that money back.
It's an uncomfortable truth that I think people need to realize that when you buy something, it costs money.
And we have it so good right now.
Yeah, I know. It's like, well, why are the closing costs so much? Well, because you have to pay taxes, brother.
Seriously,
there's no real getting around that.
So the audience understands when you buy a house. This is what you need to understand. It's not just the down payment. You need a year's worth of taxes, a year's worth of insurance, closing costs, and your down payment. So if you buy $100,000 house, it might be $10,000 that you need to get into a house. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we'll get phone calls like, I got $2,000 in the bank and I want to buy a house. Well, that's not going to work, dude.
Well, that being said, having a good agent that can get creative while still being aggressive on your offers and get you some seller concessions or something.
Well, and coinciding.
Harder in this market, but you can help offset some of those costs.
Yeah, for sure.
And if those plans coincide with the loan officers, right? Like, for example, our little deal, Brad, when I bought my house, I mean, that's why I have a 5.5% rate.
Right.
Because for
I didn't want to get too personal, but there's a reason you got the rate.
I think people don't understand, too, that, like, when you hear, like, oh, are you paying points for your lower rate? You can actually take a higher rate and get a credit towards your costs, right?
Yep.
Your payment goes up $50 a month, but you get a $5,000 credit. Well, that's 100 months that it's going to take to recoup that cost.
Let's talk about that for a minute. So in this market, what's happening is people are so rate conscious. Like, I need to have the 4% or 4.25% or whatever it may
Why?
be. Hold on, let me finish. I'm not
wanna
in
ask
the
you why.
middle of my talking. Okay. So they're so focused on that. So what I'm seeing is like, I'll give people, when I do a quote for someone, I give them the 0-point rate because I don't really believe in paying points because there's a recoup time of maybe 6 years or 7 years to make up that upfront cost to pay points to buy, because you can pay extra to get a lower rate. And what lenders are doing right now is because people are so fixated on having a lower rate, they are basically saying, yeah, you'll get 4.25%, but it's going to cost you 4 points. And I see some of these loan estimates or the documents. I'm like, why are you paying so much money for that rate when you can get 4.5% with none of those costs? And there's no. So be careful, people, when you're out there, when you're getting a quote from someone, don't be so fixated on the actual interest rate. It doesn't matter. If it takes you 8 years to recoup that cost, chances are you're going to refinance or be out of that house in that period of time. Don't do that. It's a bad investment, right?
Most people refinance their loan or move and get a different loan every 5 to 7 years.
And you can always kind of look
crazy.
at it as a gamble, right? I took the highest rate possible to get the most credit towards my closing costs because the hope was that in 6 months or a year or whatever, right, I could refinance, lower my rate, pay no costs, and essentially take all of that money that I got, and it's in my pocket.
Look,
right?
I mean, Alan, you know this.
What
People,
do I know?
You know this. People don't buy houses because rates are low or the rates. People buy houses because they have a growing family. They want to be in a certain area. They want to create wealth. Those are the reasons to buy a house. The interest rate, yeah, it's there, but that's just part of what you do, right? Like
You deal with that.
if you're looking at the rate and saying this isn't the right time to buy because of the interest rates, you're probably not serious about buying in the first place,
I agree.
right?
Or your situation is convenient where, again, you can hang out in your brother's basement and you can just save money.
By the way, Sal's brother lives in his basement. It's so funny. His name's
This
Paul.
is great.
Yeah.
I'm so happy I said that analogy then. What's your
Yeah.
brother's name?
Paul. It's actually Paul.
Paul, I
yeah.
hope you're listening.
Yeah,
right now.
Paul probably
He's
not
probably
listening.
sleeping.
He is sleeping. He
Yeah.
works like
What a
midnight.
bum.
Playing video games or something. He loves video games, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Millennials.
all right.
Millennials, yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
How old is your brother?
He's 22, man.
22. God bless his soul. He's your brother,
Yep.
so he must have had a hard life. So,
His heart, bless it.
all right. So the Fed met this week. Everybody was like, so here's what happened going into the Fed meeting. People were like anticipating what happens. The market gets a little fearful. Rates start going up. Money comes out of the bond market. Whatever. Blah 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 blah. They talked. Nothing happened. Right, Sal?
Yeah, no, there was little effect on anything. I would say actually just I wouldn't say rates came down, but the cost of points or whatever for each rate actually came down a little bit, which it's more or less. I just think the news was that we're still on course, right? It wasn't like we're completely underperforming, we're completely overperforming as an economy. I think they did say that it was a little bit under, but ultimately, I mean,
It was a non-event.
and it's like the weather, right? Hey, last
go.
Thursday
Analogy
it
city.
rained. Okay. Good. Well, like that's this whole thing too that I get. I feel like when I talk to clients about rates, I always put it out there like, man,
Okay, enough about rates. I'm sick about talking about rates. The rates are going up. People just get over it. That's all I care. I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
Just get over it. If you want to buy a house, buy a house.
Change your meaning of what you have about rates, your association to rates, and then you
Yeah.
can move on. Focus on the bottom line of what your loan estimate's going to be.
Correcto, Mondo.
Focus on your bottom line and compare it to how much you're paying now to live in
That's
the
it.
area that you're living.
That's it. That's it. And people that already like have a lower rate and are like don't want to move because just stop it.
and in 90 days, do you even think about that?
No,
Do you think I wake up every
swear
single
to
day
you.
like 5.5, 5.5?
There's people I talk to that don't even know their rate. I'm like, what's your? I don't know. Why do you care? Anyway,
Yeah, I think it's like 6.7.
yeah.
Okay.
So let's talk about if you're a buyer in this market, Alan. And you work with buyers, right?
I do.
Yeah. So when you're talking to them, how are you preparing them? Because listen, when somebody finds a house that they fall in love with, they love it, right? Especially in our market today. They're not the only ones that love it. 10, 15, 20 other people love that house as well, right?
Yep.
So they're going to battle. I mean, like in today's market, you want to win a house. It's competitive. and you got to be prepared to go into battle, and you need a good agent to know how to navigate that. Like you're the general in the battle, right?
Yep.
So how do you prepare your buyers for this market? Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like when they find that house, what do you tell them?
I tell it to them straight.
Perfect.
There's no
That's good.
coddling. There's no, no, it's straight up. Hey, if you want this house, you need to perform, and this is how you perform.
Right.
And guess what? These other people are going to perform just as well as you, if not better.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have to learn to take it, move on, or potentially win, and then we'll move from there.
Yeah.
But it's not cute.
You
right
got
now.
you got to get kind of aggressive. I mean, and there's no like, hey, I'm gonna come in like $10,000 light. I'm gonna try to get a deal. There are no deals right now.
Yeah.
No.
Deals are not to be had.
Not to be had.
And you know what's crazy? Like, I just had an appraisal come back yesterday.
Let's talk about appraisals. I think that's a good subject.
Yeah. The list price, I think, was $199. Okay. It had like 28 offers.
Whoa.
They brought it up to $220,022.
22.
Yeah, just to go over. I think there was another one that was 220 even.
Yep.
All right. Okay.
The appraisal came back at 220, man. I feel like the appraisers, or the appraisals, I should say, are starting to catch up because of all the appraisal waivers that have happened in the past 6 months, which basically waives the variance. The buyer's willing to pay the
But
variance.
with that being said, as a buyer, if you're in a bidding war and you're going over, you kind of have to be prepared for a low appraisal.
That's the annoying part. And correct me if I'm wrong. Appraisers they don't care what offers you had. They
No,
don't look at
no,
the
no,
offers.
they don't know.
They just
Half
look
the time
at,
they don't even look at the contract for the order.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
I mean, it's going to be solely based on the comps in the area. But to your point, Sal, there have been so many over-ask offers that the market is starting to catch
Yeah.
up. We're seeing less and less low appraisals.
Well, it's the only way that it will, right? Because otherwise you're always looking at the past and it might go a little bit over. But with the recent, like, I would say it's probably the worst shortage in recent times, right, of inventory, that lack of supply has created such a demand that it just keeps going higher and higher. And the waivers are really starting to, I think, push those values up as a comp perspective.
It depends on the appraiser. I had a situation in Redford, okay? And I had no idea Redford was a hot market
It's
until
gotten
I
hot,
started
yeah.
working in
That's
it.
crazy, right?
So I was born and raised in Livonia.
Yep.
And us Livonians always look at Redford like, we're better than you. So I always had this stigma of Redford.
Yeah.
Until I had a client that was like, I want to live in Redford. So the first house I did an offer for her, they had 17 offers.
Yeah.
And this was like a $155,000 bungalow.
Yeah.
I ended up getting her under contract under a house that had 8 offers. Okay. Their asking price was $125,000.
Okay.
And we went under contract at $137,900.
Whoa.
Now, the reason we did this was because they had 8 offers. I needed to get her a seller concession. Whenever I do a seller concession for a client, I always bid over what they need, so the seller walks away still with the net that they wanted.
Yeah.
And
Did it appraise?
We're going to talk about that.
Okay.
So no, it did not.
No.
But
Did she lose the concessions?
Yes.
Or part
it didn't
of them?
appraise, and the contract fell through.
Gotcha.
But this is why I want to talk about this. So the issue is there's such a high demand. There's so many people overbidding and outbidding each other. And the reason this is happening, and the reason I won this bid, was because I was the first agent in that house the first day it came on the market on Friday. And Monday, the listing agent called for highest and best. And I called her and I said, listen, I was the first guy in that house. I was the first offer in. Can you tell me what you need from me? I don't need a number, okay? But tell me what you need. What do you need?
But that's a good agent. You should do that for your,
I mean,
client. Yeah,
and the thing is, I wouldn't do that. Well, maybe I would. But what justified me doing that was I was the first one. Yo, I put the work in. As soon as it was on the market, I hustled my ass over there. I was there. I showed. I gave you a competitive offer from the get-go. I
Right.
gave her like $132,500.
right off the bat.
Right off the bat.
Yeah.
So I was like, tell me what you need. So she gave me, she was so funny. She was so awkward. She's like, because not many people
Just
pick
not
up
used
the
to
phone
that,
and
yeah.
put people on the spot. But I was like, I got a little New Yorker in me from school and
Yeah.
stuff. So, I'm going to challenge you. Like, tell me what you need. So Got under contract. They had other offers that are very similar. Okay, so we got it for $137,900. House appraised at $115,000.
Wow.
So the reason I want to bring this up is because after this happened, I warned everybody. I told the listing agent, I was like, you need to prepare your seller for a low appraisal.
Right.
And we're going to work through it. I told my client, we're going to have a low appraisal. You need to figure out this $4,000 that you need as a seller concession, and you need to figure it out because that's the only grounds I have for us to maintain in contract.
Right.
Because the seller is going to have to deal with a cut with a low appraised value, and now another $4,000 from your seller concession.
Mm-hmm.
So two people need to work here. The seller needs to come down from her high horse, or his high horse, for what they need, and you need to get your stuff together and try to come up with some money to get the seller concession removed. The issue is, people need to understand that appraisers take their job very seriously. Okay, there are heavy penalties that can happen to them if they don't do their job correctly, and that's why they are the way that they are.
For sure.
Appraisers are always going to use what has sold the most recently and the closest house that's available to that house. Okay, and the issue was within the half mile to 0.75 mile radius of that home, all of them sold for around $115,000. Okay, and within the last 7 months. Then you have a mile to a mile and a half out, and then they had houses that were selling for like the $125,000, $130,000, and they sold 8+ months ago. And this listing agent's like, well, let's contest the appraisal. Let's fix it.
What are you going to contest at that point?
And I'm like,
well, and I think ultimately, right, like, and this is something that I always hear from like the listing agent, from the buyer. Well, and especially the listing agent when something comes in light, I got 5 other offers full price. Okay, how many of them completely waived their appraisal? Right? Mm-hmm. Because that is truly when someone's actually willing to pay that. And in that situation, if the appraisal does come in low, you will have a sold comp at the full price. If there's no appraisal waiver, that's the appraiser's job to keep our market in check.
That's what I was going to say.
which I don't mind. I'm not upset about it.
No.
Because that's why I warned everybody from the get-go. I was like, you guys need to analyze this data. It is our job as realtors to educate these people on what the market will take right now and what are the facts. Mm-hmm. And this is how this is done. And unfortunately, she failed to realize that, and she's a
bad agent.
Well,
I'm going to be honest. You're a bad agent because unless you have a cash offer, you need to know your comps. Right?
Correct.
If you list a house and you are taking an offer that's $20K over the highest comp in the area, unless they have the cash to bring the difference, that house is not going to go through. It's not happening.
This is interesting to me because
it?
A lot of times when appraisals come in low, we always hear we had 8 other offers, we had full price offers, yada yada, or they want to contest it and they send over comps. But they're all listings. They're all pendings.
None of those matter.
And I feel like they should know that. So either they're just going through the motions to throw someone under the bus for their seller, or they just are trying to be, or they're just bitter.
And again, it's just an offer,
right?
I mean, it's like
I've had an appraiser use an act. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. So I've had an appraiser use. As I continue talking, I've had an appraiser use an active listing before. Because what happened is if I have an appraisal that falls short, I analyze that data for a good 1 to 2 hours because I want to understand exactly what potentially did I miss, okay, and what did they use compared to what I used to come up with the offer or the listing price if I'm representing the seller.
So usually appraisers are always going to include listings, at least 2.
But they're like secondary.
But
right?
yeah, they're not weighted.
Yeah,
they're either giving it little weight or no weight at all because all the weight in their value comes from.
Can I just say something?
Sold comps.
I'm going to say something real quick. I know appraisers get a bad rap in our industry because
their job is complicated.
It's not only that. They're our regulator, dude. Yeah. Like they're the thing stopping us from overheating. They're the reason why homes in Royal Oak aren't $600,000 for $1,200.
I'm not upset with appraisers. I don't have beef with appraisers.
Some people do.
I have beef with agents that don't respect appraisers and
all
can't
day
respect or can't
Here. Thank you, all appraisers, for
Right.
keeping our
Yeah.
economy in
And,
check.
you know,
they
with-
save face and throw everyone else under the bus.
right. And at the end of the day, it's always, well, show me the comps. You know, I'll battle tooth and nail for
Yeah.
a deal.
I know. We
But
have
show
a,
me the comps.
We have a good friend who does a lot of appraisals, and he tells us it hurts him to give a low appraisal. He doesn't want to be the guy that
I
gives
bet.
a low appraisal.
Yeah.
You think he wants to get calls from?
No, he doesn't want to go
everyone?
back out and go do another, like whatever.
But
it
it's
is,
his job.
He has a job to do, and again, it falls back on the agents for enabling these
Correct.
people
Correct.
to believe that
Yes.
that's the value that they can get. If
Yes.
agents didn't enable their clients, I want to swear so bad.
Do it.
I have
Do it.
such
We're
a-
explicit.
Do it.
Like
Fine.
this,
Shit.
this shit wouldn't happen.
There you go.
It would not happen
There
if
you go.
people weren't bitches and did their job. Seriously,
And there you have it. That's the quote of the day.
I've arrived.
Yes, there you go. There we have totally arrived as a podcast.
Well, it is funny, you know, and I think like sometimes in this business, in any business or anything that you do you think in your mind that someone intentionally is trying to just screw everything up for everyone?
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah,
some
yeah,
people do.
yeah.
man,
I'm
like
getting screwed. The
I
man's
can't wait to
screwing
get
me.
this deal to the end and then
Well,
tell the
it's-
client to quit his job so he
Right.
can't get his mortgage.
It's the victim mentality that
Like-
as humans we all like. There's a lot of humans out there that are
I
victims.
get off on
Let's
that.
talk about that.
Yeah.
How often does that happen? Like, I'm going to go through this process of getting a mortgage, and right at the end, right before closing, I'm going to quit my job.
Man.
And not think that that's going to be an issue somehow.
We had that one.
Happens a lot more than you would
Well,
think.
ultimately, everybody wants to blame their failure on someone else, right?
Yes.
It's either the loan officer, the appraiser, this person, that person. Listen, people, be accountable for your own actions. Like just in life in general. Like I'm very accountable because I know when I made a mistake. Like if I miss pre-approved, which I don't do often, but it has happened in my career, right? I pre-approved someone, I missed something. Well, I've got to fall on the sword and say that's my fault. I can't say, well, the client lied to me. No, I didn't ask the right questions. That's
Correct.
my
Yes.
problem. That's not the client's problem. Appraisal comes in low on a listing I have. That's my fault for not doing my due diligence, right? A deal falls through. You got to really look and be introspective and say, what did I do that created this problem? And that in our industry doesn't happen very much.
Yes.
We want
I don't
to-
think it happens in life very much.
I would agree with you. Yeah,
agree
I would
100%.
agree with that. People are not accountable by just in general, right? Just be accountable. Like, look at the mirror and say, what could I have done to avoid this situation? Because nobody else is going to care about you except for you,
Right.
dummies.
Yep.
They're looking for a pity party.
What is a pity party exactly? How does that work? Like, do people get together and just like commiserate? Just-
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm so
Candlelight vigil for it.
Does it sound like this at the party?
I think we
is that what the
Man.
video?
I think we said last week too. One of the
good.
things that it's like, did you die?
What?
What? Like, oh my gosh, you got to realize that these sellers need to move Friday. Okay,
Oh,
but
yeah.
did they die? No.
Is everything
Okay, so
okay?
that's a good way to put it. In
Well, we're going to
perspective.
be okay because this isn't life or death. This is buying a house, which is very important.
Yeah.
Don't let me take that away from it. But ultimately, like, we're going to all have to work together to figure this out, or it's not going to happen.
That should be your slogan. Did you die?
Did you die, dude?
Well, when,
It's horrible. It's so morbid.
well,
Like I want to hear you next time on the phone. Just like if there's someone.
well, I think that sometimes people take this as serious as like surgery, which is good. Hey,
listen,
it's
buying
good
a
to
house,
be serious,
Buying
but
a
it's
house is
also
pretty serious.
good to really understand that a lot can go wrong with this.
You know what I do in those situations? I just start reminding people of the beauty of owning a home, and like we're gonna get you in
Yeah,
there.
it's gonna be
and
all
it's
right.
gonna be all right. You're gonna be living there with your family. It's just delayed 1 or 2 days, right? Whatever the reason is.
But with the
your
domino
heat's not
effect
gonna
going
work.
on, like all of a sudden
Everybody's gotta chill out.
you're getting a call from someone five homes down the road, right? Basically, the person who's buying that house is buying this house, is buying that house, and it's all dependent on one deal, which they call the domino effect, right? That one domino falls down,
that
they all
poor
fall
planning.
down.
is it like the butterfly effect, or is that different?
It's a different one, Paul.
Okay.
But but and all of a sudden as a loan officer you're getting a call from like the 6th domino down the road. Is this guy gonna close? Yeah, man. We're all gonna close. Like
It affects a lot
Chill,
of
dude.
lives. It affects a lot of lives. It affects a lot of money
right.
going around. People
Again, it's
paying
serious,
Ubers
but
to
like it's
come
going to
and-
happen.
Listen,
Everyone needs to work together.
I think with one thing that you have to be cognizant of, you do have to take it seriously.
Yeah.
And it's a very like people are really
and I think we
invested
take for
emotionally.
granted a little bit like the seriousness we take up front, right? So when I get those frantic calls, I'm like, dude, chill, right? But in reality, I'm sure that a lot of people have been burned by, some big bank or something like that. That's like, whatever.
Yeah.
We like playing dominoes.
I think a good thing to say is when things happen that are negative or that they weren't.
You wanted to say shit so bad.
I know, so bad. I mean, it was right there. You're like, I was like, shit.
I always like to say some of the phrases like, this is not normal. This can happen sometimes. So if I'm in a domino effect situation and the seller's freaking out or the buyer's freaking out, again, my job is an educator as well under being a realtor. And it's my job to say, you know what? This happens sometimes. It's okay. It's not outside of the norm. Everything's going to be fine. This is part of the process. Sometimes things come together all at the end, and this is okay that this is happening. It's also our job as loan officers and realtors to plant the seed. I love planting seeds. I plant seeds all day.
Prepare them.
Yes.
Foreshadow.
Yes.
I prepare them for everything.
For
Hey,
sure.
this can happen, this can happen, this can happen, this can happen. If this does happen.
This is our contingency plan.
No, I don't even go there because I don't want to talk about that yet.
Oh, okay.
So I say A, B, C, D, E can happen. If A, B, C, D happens, we will walk that bridge together from there. Just know you're in good hands. We'll tackle that when we get there. But they can happen, so keep that in mind.
As
I
long
think
as
people
you have that
underestimate-
conversation.
I think people underestimate the power of a foreshadow. Like
Yeah.
people will take anything when it comes up if they have an inkling that it was coming to them.
Yes.
People will get super pissed about
It's
the
like-
smallest thing if they were blindsided.
It's like if I'm getting a
crazy.
shot at the doctor and he just pokes me, I'm like, dude,
freaking out.
What the shit, man?
Yeah.
Right? You just poke. But if he's like, listen, I'm going to
feel
put
a
this
little-
in. Yeah.
feel a little pressure.
I'm going
Yes.
to put a shot. Right? Then
That's
you're prepared.
a great analogy.
is,
right?
I like that.
Right? You have
That's
to be
great.
prepared for whatever it is that's coming up.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like you have to know your audience too, right? And you got this little kid who's all wound up. You might just want to stick them and just keep moving, right?
You're sadistic.
What?
You're so
fucked
sadistic, dude.
No, that's really good too. You guys are good. No, I like that too because you're right. You have to know your audience, loan officer and realtors. We have to know what they respond to.
Some people like direct-
communication-wise.
Guys,
right?
and all this goes back to working with like good people. Like, be careful. I'm going to talk to the audience right now. Be careful who you work with because it's not just like we're going to go back to the rate a little bit, right? I want to get the lowest rate. I want to get the lowest rate. Well, some company out in Texas who does online lending, who doesn't know anything about the market, who doesn't know your agent, who doesn't know anything, they might have the lowest rate, but you are going to get stuck in a really complicated purchase transaction potentially,
Yeah.
right?
Because they don't know the appraisers and don't have.
They don't have any of
But
that,
there's
right?
also foreshadowing too above and beyond on the client side that has to go on between the agents, right? Like, yes, he needs seller's concessions. And then your job is to foreshadow to that other agent, hey, we're going to come in 5K, 10K over. If this comes in low, this deal still needs concessions, which I feel like a lot of people fail to say, right?
They're scared to
Well,
say
yeah,
that.
we'll come down, but then there's no concessions. Which,
Well, I want to get under contract first. We tackle the bridge when we get there because it's my job to get us under contract so my client gets the house. I don't want to say anything that would not let them take my offer because every house has a multiple offer situation.
and I get that too, yeah.
But you need to know that though. You need to know what cards you're playing with.
Yeah.
Right. Always. Like if I'm the loan officer, we're working together. You need to be very aware of the client profile and what they need and what they don't need. That way
Correct.
you can make sure that you're setting yourself up. Right.
Yeah.
So, guys, that is really our time.
Really?
That went pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
By the way, you looked really bad this morning. I mean, what was wrong with you? You walked out of your car and you literally looked like homeless.
Most humans, besides
Dude.
my wife, would say I look bad. Almost
He was
every
wearing
day.
these glasses, but they were like this. His eyes are bloodshot. He's wearing this tank
allergy
top
season,
cut off.
dude.
Like, he actually dressed up for the show.
I didn't dress. I just changed my
He
shirt.
changed his shirt to that, which is awesome. But I'm just saying, I'm worried about you.
he's
Are you
okay, man.
You work me too hard,
I
man.
know. How
That
about
sounded
Alan? How'd you
bad.
like the show? Was it good?
No, I had a great
Paul
time.
calls it as it is, I guess. He's the other day he says, man, I don't know if your frame can support any more weight.
To who?
Me, first
Oh,
thing
I was
Monday
like,
morning, I
damn.
walk in, I'm like, thanks, bro.
Damn, you guys are.
So everybody knows these two got their haircut together yesterday, which is
Salon
super
6.
weird.
Shout out Salon 6. You guys did a good job. yeah, boy.
They have not stopped talking about you guys at
yeah.
Salon 6.
Yeah,
It's
you guys
heaven.
did- yeah, you guys did a heaven job. I'm proud of you guys.
I
It
could
costs
totally
as
see
much as
that.
4
Yeah.
of my previous haircuts, but it's all right.
But you look fantastic.
Hey.
Did you get a shave too? Why?
on the neck.
No, they should.
Oh, they did a
showed-
neckline?
Yeah. All right, guys. That's
All right.
That's enough. Love you guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. We'll see you next week.
We won't see them.